and Oromo peoples, the two most popular ethnic groups in Ethiopia. And unfortunately, they largely remain underreported or unreported. The security and human rights situation in Ethiopia further deteriorated as Prime Minister Abiy struggled to maintain order, or quite often failed to do it, amid growing internal unrest and political tensions. The human rights landscape is now defined by ongoing abuses by government security forces, attacks on civilians by armed groups, sometimes identified, sometimes not identified, deadly violence against communal and ethnic lines, and a political crisis. Social violence is undoubtedly now on the rise, and quite a number of those incidents took place before the Tigray conflict, as the video showed you, but they failed to sufficiently mobilize the international community. For example, concerning the Amhara, November 2019, Amhara students, 18 Amhara students, 14 girls and 4 young men from Dambidolo University in Western Oromia were abducted by unidentified people as they fled the by-bus fatal ethnic clashes between Oromo and Amhara in the university. Then they have been missing since, and of course, we can fear for the worst after more than 2 years. This stoked anger at the government over its inaction and lack of transparency. Inter-ethnic violence affected more than 20 other universities' campuses in 2019, mainly in the Oromia and Amhara regions, and continued in 2020, prompting an estimated 35,000 students to flee. Another example, 1 year later, November 2020, at least 54 people from the Amhara ethnic group were killed in an attack by suspected members of the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA. The attack on Gawakanga village in Guliso district of the West Welaga zone took place just a day after the Ethiopian Defense Forces troops withdrew from the area unexpectedly and without any explanation. Witnesses said dozens of men, women and children were killed, property looted, and what the militants could not carry away, they set on fire. The fact that this horrendous incident occurred shortly after government troops abruptly withdrew from the area in unexplained circumstances raises a number of questions and have not been answered by the federal government. The Amhara people expect that Ethiopian authorities investigate what happened and prosecute those responsible for the attack through fair trials. This year, a lot of incidents this year. You cannot imagine in March, April, how many I could find on internet or from open sources. Again, a few examples. 25th of February of this year, 12 people at least, including a 7-year-old child, were hacked to death in 2 particularly brutal attacks in the villages of Boka and Nehlu in the eastern part of Oromia. Multiple sources told Al Jazeera at that time. 6 and 9 March, 42 people were killed in 2 separate attacks that targeted Amhara civilians in Oromia's Horogudru district, according now to the official Ethiopian media. Victims usually blamed the massacres on fighters belonging to the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA. What is the OLA? It is a breakaway armed wing of the Oromo Liberation Front, OLF, which was founded in the 1970s to fight for the self-determination of the ethnic group of Oromos. In 2018, promises of political reform by the then newly appointed Prime Minister Abiy saw the OLF decriminalized and permitted to join party politics. But negotiations with the army, with the armed wing eventually soared and the OLA splintered from the political organization and resumed fighting. So I have many more examples in March and April with horrible massacres targeting on purpose the Amhara people. Just to mention that you said you didn't have a voice in Brussels, you didn't have a voice in the United States, but you have an Amhara Association of America in Washington. And I saw that Theodoros Terf, the chairman of that association, was also very active. And he said only for the month of March of this year, over 300 Amharas, including women and children, had been massacred by the Oromo Liberation Army. And he also accused the government of being silent and inactive on the killings. As a conclusion, I would say, we should ask ourselves, but what is the origin of all these inter-ethnic conflicts? In fact, the successive federal governments of Ethiopia, since the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, EPRDF, as we know, assumed power in 91, have their share of responsibility in the current situation in Ethiopia, including the Prime Minister Abiy, as they all failed to address the real roots of the inter-ethnic conflicts, which are the inappropriate redesigning of the regional borders, which partly ignored their historical ethnic characteristics and their rights. As Ethiopia was transformed from a unitary to a federal state, 9 new regional states were designed according to Article 46 of the Constitution of 1995 on the basis, and I quote, of settlement patterns, language, identity, and consent of the people. Yet the borders of the new regional states crisscross former administrative delineations and were simply imposed without popular consent through a referendum or election. Administrative borders between the regional states have been altered during all regime changes in Ethiopia and are often used and misused and instrumentalized as a means for the federal government to divide and rule by maintaining political control over local nobility and political elites aspiring for central power. A few years ago, the US representatives in Washington, of the House in Washington, adopted a resolution, Resolution 128, entitled Respect for Human Rights and Encouraging Inclusive Governance. Human rights and encouraging and inclusive governance should also be the compass of the European Union. The Tigray War and the dramatic humanitarian crisis in that region should not be a smokescreen hiding other atrocities in the country and the Amhara region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Willy, for this very intensive and knowledgeable overview. I think it enlightened all of us. You will hear now for the third time that it's 86 different ethnic groups officially recognized. A short remark, personal remark from my side. I have a daughter. Her mother is Brazilian. Her father, me, is German. And one day when she was 6, 7, she came home very nervous. I said, "What's happening?" "You can't believe in my class there is a girl, a new girl." I said, "Yes." "Her parents are from the same country." I said, "This is impossible." Yes, 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 you can't believe it. And she's nice nevertheless. This is reality in Brussels. But now we have heard people who are sitting here in front of the small public here in Brussels. And now we are coming to 3 panelists who are not here, from 3 different continents, who will be linked to us. It is first from the US, Senaid Dereje, afterwards Mirza Mohammed from Ethiopia, and then from Sweden, Girma Beriano. And afterwards, I asked already my co-moderator in Portugal, Monica Högen, to prepare 1 or 2 questions, but then it is for you, the public here, and for you, the public via Zoom, to ask questions or come with short comments. I give now the floor to the US, to Zenaid Dereje. Please. Zenaid.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
I really would like to thank the organizers, Brussels Press Club and HRGW for this. And honestly, really would like to thank all the speakers before me. I will try to remove areas that has already been very beautifully and truthfully covered. So what I would like to address is what is happening to the Amhara people and why. Later, I hope I'll get the chance to come back and discuss how it's happening and what Amharas are doing about it to mitigate it.
Yes, and it will be, my dear, it will be 2 times 4 minutes, okay?
Okay,
good.
Perfect. So now I'll just focus the why, because this is Africa. People always kill each other, and there is this sentiment, unfortunately, where conflicts happen. They just either are over resources, or there is a form of generalization from the rest of the world. So we tend to go with whatever the agenda of the day is. Luckily, a lot of the earlier speakers have covered why this is happening and why Amharas are being targeted in a horrific way. But I really want to give the logic behind it. Why is it happening? So Frank very clearly mentioned that Amharas are one of the 86 ethnic groups in Ethiopia. Also, Amharas are similarly affected by the usual problems people in the third world country face, like their compatriots. Life has deliberately been made dangerous, specifically to Amharas in Ethiopia, since the imposition of the ethnic federalism. So when TPLF and other armed rebel groups took power, deposing the military dictatorship, the first thing they did, and this is not rhetoric, there are evidences, is design the political platform in such a way that Amhara voices were not represented. So the problem starts with not being represented, underrepresentation, and non-representation. So when I say this is not just rhetoric, every legal framework and policy that was implemented was designed to exclude Amharas. Tangible examples include the fact that every major region that is labeled under ethnic identity had the ethnic identity written as the owner of that region in the regional or state constitution, except in the Amhara region, where the region geographically just on the map is labeled Amhara, but it proclaims the land belongs to its residents. So imagine having an ethnic federalism, an apartheid system that apportions land for a given ethnic identity, and having the second largest group, even according to the government statistics, that was the initial, like not given any land to their name. So that was the initial precursor and the foundation of all the genocidal attacks and the ethnic cleansing to come. The EPRDF coalition divided the nation along ethnic lines, and they did it without a single Amhara party being represented in the process. So even if the whole Ethiopians, if that's what they wanted, Amharas were not represented. As a result, Amharas lost the vast areas of their home states, which were arbitrarily and exclusively restricted to the specific ethnic groups, turning a nation where all of us lived together for centuries into an apartheid state where some are not welcome in some areas based on their ethnic identity. So why target Amhara specifically though? Well, it was separatists who were allowed to rule the country. Imagine a group who wanted to take a piece of you being allowed to manage you as a whole. So their major goal is to make sure that there is an exit strategy, like we're seeing now with the wars, with the war in Tigray and the operation that earlier the Abiy administration did in Somali region. An exit strategy. If them ruling Ethiopia is not successful, to make that happen, they need to make regions. In order for them to separate, they need to make these regions homogeneous. They're drawn on paper, but they have to be real on the ground. The only scene of Amharas is living all over the country. And as an indigenous group that lived there for thousands of years, that's something you would expect. But that defies the new boundaries they have drawn. So basically, the why revolves around Given that Amharas occupy vast areas of the nation, it becomes impossible to carve out homogeneous ethnic nation states without the removal of people like, Amharas, Gurages, Gamos, Hadiyas, and Walaitas, who for centuries lived across the Ethiopian nation. Amharas and few other specific identities that are hunted for the same reason were also easy targets as they didn't organize along their ethnic line for political purposes. So there was not an organized political entity that debunks all the hate rhetoric that was instilled in Ethiopians through education, media, and the discourse from the ruling party. So the often cited reason that Amharas are killed due to the historical grievances is incorrect and immoral at so many levels. The major reason being you do not justify the massacre of children and innocent men and women by citing historical accounts from hundreds of years ago. While history could be debated and translational and restorative justice can be applied, it's inhuman and nonsensical to commit heinous crimes against humanity to settle perceived historical scores. So hence the senseless ethnic targeting, attacks, massacres, and mass exodus from all over the country just because they're Amharas. So this doesn't stop with Amharas. I just would like to reiterate and wrap up. The system is genocidal itself. It was a failed experiment. Sure, there are always inter-ethnic differences. There are religious differences, but it's not the same when you put the skirmishes on steroid by basing the administration, the legal and security frameworks on the nation along ethnic lines. So therefore, with similar distribution, there were others who were affected. Gurages, Kores were being killed off right now because they don't confirm the area where the Oromo regional state wants to expand into. In the past, during the TPLF-led regime, there were Anuak massacres. There were Somalis being massacred in Somali region. And even what's happening in Tigray, it is part of the same problem. So the major group that was in power, the minute it's removed, its people being are attacked because it's just hiding behind ethnic identity. So if the system is successful in actually homogenizing according to its plan, all administrative units, not just states, but down to precincts and districts, what happens then, every conflict will automatically be genocidal because now you have your units totally homogenized, and whoever is powerful enough and has the state apparatus will be killing off all the other homogenized regions. So let's look into the root cause. No one is against federalism or decentralization. Let's just do it in a human way. Every horror from Tigray, Eritrea border up in the north, to Moyale, up to the southern border with Kenya, every problem we have and all this inhuman, along with the tyranny and the dictatorship and the corruption, is to do with this ethnic federalism. The experiment has failed. Help us remove it. Changing prime ministers alone is not enough. We've seen 3 of them under the system. It's not a solution. Change the whole thing and save us. Save Ethiopians, save Amharas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zenaid, with your plaidoyer against homogenization, to make a state, a region homogeneous. And we here in Brussels or we in the Netherlands have to smile about this because nothing like this is here with us. Now we are coming to the second contributor from outside. It is Mehrsa Mohamed. She's based in Ethiopia. And Mehrsa, it's now you. Please. And remember, 4 to 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate the Brothers Club for giving this opportunity for the voiceless Amharas. It means a lot for us to get such kinds of opportunity to tell the world what's happening in Ethiopia, specifically in Amhara. So though our government is busy in holding election within 4 days, our country is really in a very serious massacre and displacement, hunger, and other problems, especially Amhara people are suffering due to these problems. So let's see what's happening in short. So I have a very specific or a limited time. There is a systematic repression against ethnic Amhara, informed due to a narrative that the nature toward this Amhara, called as Neftenya because of this rhetoric. Dozens of Amhara are killing in Oromia region, in South Nation and nationalist region, and also in Amhara region also. So as I went and asked and discussed with the survivors in Shashamene, Arisi, Bale, Zuai, Agarfa, these are regions which are found in Oromia. These are small towns which are found in Oromia. There are more than 300 people are killed and thousands are displaced in West Oromia. And also in Wellega, more than 600 are killed in different rounds. The killing or the massacre was not once and completed once. It was repeated again and again, and at least it has been for 6 or 7 rounds. This is only in the last 3 months after the change or after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power. And more than 10,000 Amharas are displaced and trying to survive in different Amhara regions. Those people who are migrated from this Wellega, they came to Desi, Dabra Tabor, and Bure towns. Those were displaced from this Eastern Oromia. They are still suffering in churches, and some of them are living in their relatives' home because the government even couldn't give them a kind of a campus and places to survive at least. And also, the other place, Benshangul-Gums, Amhara is one of the most populous ethnic group in this region in Benshangul-Gums. And in terms of influence, the Amhara are the most influential, and in terms of even economy, they play a leading role in this region. But all these factors contribute to their killings because the killers consider themselves as an indigenous population, so they think the resources are controlled by others or the settlers. They consider the Amharas as the settlers, so they are planning to completely destroy and clean from their states. So, for example, on 23 December 2020, at least 250 Amharas were reportedly killed in one day. And again, on 16 January 2010, according to the Human Rights Commission report, an estimated 500 people have lost their lives. This is in a specific area with a specific days. More than 250 Amhara, Agaus, in some places they call them Agaus, displaced and suffering in Amhara region, small town called Chagni Ranch. More than 5,000 houses are burned in this area. 5,000 houses are burned. 250,000 people are living in campus, which is called ranch. In this place, people are suffering from hunger. Even there is no one who could serve them food and other materials to survive. Even at least 50 innocent civilians had been brutally massacred in October 2020, again in Gurafarda. Gurafarda is a place which is found in South Nations and nationalist region. Actually, the people of Amhara in Gurafarda are suffering by ongoing killings and displacements every single day since TPLF have come to power. And in Amhara region itself also, there is a mass killing. I can mention 2 places in Amhara region, the Maikadra and the northern nation, which is specifically called Ataye. In Maikadra, though the genocide was started since TPLF came into power and took Maikadra and Welkait and other cities under Tigray region, but the massacre, the ethnic cleansing and mass murders carried out in November 9 up to 10, 2020, almost more than 600 people were massacred within 2 days. Even anyone can see the mass graves in the city. More than 40 and 50 people are mass graved in this place in Maikadra. Anyone can see it, can observe in any time I was there before 3 days, and the people are still crying there. The people are still worrying, and no one is again there for their to be saved or to save them.
Mirza, thank you. I feel totally you would have liked to continue speaking because you have a lot of more to say, but I think it was touching for us to hear what you had to report. Thank you very much, Mirza from the US. Oh no, pardon, Ethiopia, directly from Ethiopia. And we are now going north. We are going now to Sweden, to Girma Beriano, Professor Girma. Please, you, and afterwards Monica Hogan with two questions. Please.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I'm so moved by the panelists' presentation. I have been depressed a lot of time that Europeans don't understand the complexities of our countries. And I'm so humbled and really comforted by the two panelists from the Brussels Press Club, how they captured the intricacies, the insanely complex situation that Ethiopia finds itself. I mean, I need several hours to present my thesis, you know, but most of, the previous panelists have said most of the important features of the Amhara tragedy. My thesis revolves around the Western media and politics role in Ethiopian conflict. And I'm not categorical. I'm not blaming everybody. I'm not praising everybody. It's a complex situation. Most media outlets and aid organizations, humanitarian organizations, do not seem to take this insanely complex situation and the future of the whole country into account. As Sanai tried to raise, Ethiopia is, a country of 80 plus ethnicities, and it's so complex. It's an old country, and you need to really, really come closer to understand it. And our focus in this meeting, as I understand it, I mean, I cannot cover all my notes, so is the most important in this meeting. This meeting must be on making Ethiopians and fair-minded people the world over, including this club members, aware of the failure of Western media. I'm personally shocked and surprised and unsettled by the sheer extent of media space these doubtful accounts took, like, evidence bias and dubious journalistic quality. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that the ignored genocide on the Amhara side, I mean, which has been going on for the last 30 years, little is reported and over-reported. I mean, what happened in the Tigray region. And we know that half of the news that come out has no substantial basis. So this is a travesty of justice. Okay? So this, I'm just aiming at the European politicians or Western politicians and the media. I want to say that there is, I mean, my argument is that there is what is it called, incestuous relationship between the media and the politicians. That's one of my points. And even more worryingly, both the European Union and the United States have been engaging with Ethiopia in a manner that doesn't focus on the greater good and couldn't bring peace and unity in Ethiopia and stability in the Horn of Africa. So homework has not been done by Western countries, including news media. And all this that they didn't do their homework has led to, is leading to wrong policy actions. So Ethiopians, I feel, I mean, I can't speak for Ethiopians. I mean, I feel betrayed and disappointed by this biased reporting and policy measures. For instance, the Mali, or or Myanmar, former Burma, crimes against humanity are being investigated by the Office of the United Nations. However, the ethnic cleansing of Amharas is mostly ignored. The Amharas, as Sanait and Lily explained, are still massacred as we speak, displaced and threatened in the Western, Southwestern, eastern and central Ethiopia, but the central government and the rulers who govern these regions of genocide are still calling it conflict, ethnic conflict, or inter-community clashes, spontaneous clashes, and there are denial by the. I mean, I'm blaming also the Ethiopian government in this process. So the Western media, the Western media's reporting on the conflict in northern Ethiopia has been unbalanced and consistently biased against Ethiopia. This should come as no surprise because the Western media is doing no investigative reporting. It doesn't even try to give a complete picture of the conflict. It has not looked carefully at the role that the TPLF has played in the Ethiopian problem. Let me give you one example. I hope I have time. Less than a week after fighting between the TPLF and government forces began in November, a community comprised largely of ethnic Amharas were targeted by a Tigrayan youth group known as Samri, okay, who are believed to be sympathetic to the TPLF. On November 9, 2020, at least 1,200 people, some people say 800, doesn't matter, in the town of Maikadra were brutally murdered in homes they shared with fellow seasonal workers and their families. The victims were largely Amhara. And they killed hundreds of people, beating them with batons, sticks, stabbing them with knives, machetes and hashes, and strangling them with ropes. I mean, this is reported by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and other reports. It has been, so ethnic apartheid system, I mean, one of the is the culprit for all this problem. Arbitrary boundaries based on ethnicity have led to ethnic distrust, as we know, and competition.
Gilma, are you coming to an end? Can you please come to an end?
Yes, okay. As I mean, what I'm trying to say is this relative silence regarding the weekly killings of Amhara in this part of the country is worrying. International human organizations, I mean, yes, I therefore wish to bring the world's attention to the warning that the crisis currently unfolding in Ethiopia can both potentially become a devastating conflict with serious repercussions on the ground, a conflict where genocide is being actively cultivated by politicians and media broadcasters. This in turn raises the issue of mass displacement of population with serious consequences for the international community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. With your appeal to the international community to change the cap. And we all have listened to you, and we've seen your professor, the number of books behind you, and the IKEA shelves. You are based in Sweden. We see it. And you've read a lot. And you certainly can give a lot to your students. I'm now giving the floor to Monika Högen for 2 short questions, and then the floor is opened. I see already 2 people who would like to speak here from the public. First, it's Wolfgang Pape, and then it's Andi Verhout. Monika, please. It's you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, first of all, also thank you for all those contributions, which were really touching and shocking. And I also followed up the chat a little bit. So there were many more examples of human rights abuses, and sadly so. Obviously, there are a lot of sources talking about that. But I would like to maybe to switch a little bit from now. We have heard about the problems, and you described them very much. But maybe to my questions would try to find out about solutions. There were 2 things which popped up all the time. You criticized the ethnic-based federalism, and you also criticized very much the role of the Western media. So my questions to the panelists would be, for both of them, how could we solve those problems? So the first question would be, is there any chance that you can get out of this obviously devastating system of ethnic-based federalism? Are there any chances, any initiatives to get out of that? Is there a chance for that to come to a different political system? That would be the first question. And the second question would relate it to the Western media. I mean, I agree that there might be some media that are completely ignorant, but some of them might not report in the way you wanted to, because also they might not be able to, to grasp all that complexity. So the second question would be, what could you do to help Western media to report in a different way?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monika. And now the questions here from the ground. And please, Monica, identify 2 or 3 questions which have arrived via Zoom. For the questions now, I have been member of the European Parliament, and you can't believe it, but it's true. Average speaking time in the European Parliament is not half an hour, not 10 minutes, not 5 minutes, it's 2 minutes. Therefore, I ask you in your question to stick with 1 minute. First, Wolfgang Pape. Wolfgang Pape is a retired civil servant from the Commission. He has just published a book, 600 pages, about foreign affairs politics on omnilateralism. Please, Wolfgang Pape.
Thank you very much. I want to relate.
No, stop. Microphone. No, go here. Please go there. Oh, yes. And the camera will.
Thank you very much indeed. I want to relate directly to Monica's question on the Western media. I fully understand that they are underreporting on Ethiopia as a whole, particularly the problem of Amhara. It's obvious. And I appreciate very much that you enlighten us here on this issue. But when you call about Western media, you think of non-Western as well. And I wonder, particularly the role of China in Ethiopia. China has more than 50% holding the depth of Ethiopia. This is enormous influence it could have. Do you have any representation in Beijing, for instance? Do you see any other than Western media being better than those Western media? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. And the next is Annie Verhout. Please come as well to the speaker's corner, please. 1 minute, huh?
I have some questions. I think I have 3 questions. Can I have the 3 questions? Do I have the time to have the 3 questions? I cannot do it in 1 minute. Yeah. Hello, my name is Andy Vermoot. I'm asking my questions on behalf of the International Alliance for the Defense of Rights and Liberties with consultative status at the United Nations and the Fundamental Rights Movement non-profit organization post versa. Because of this important conference, thank you, Frank, and Laurent from the press group, the world is now aware that mass killings, large-scale torture, and rape of women and girls are taking place in the region based on ethnic identity. Is this in fact a genocide? Why is the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy failing to end these hostilities towards the Amhara people? Why does he not protect the Amhara people? The International Alliance for the Defense of Rights and Freedoms calls on the Ethiopian authorities to grant access, immediately access, to all humanitarian organizations and staff from the United Nations High Commissioner of Human Rights to conduct an independent investigation into all human rights violations towards the Amhara people. We, with the International Alliance for the Defense of Rights and Freedoms, also urge the international community to hold the perpetrators of human rights violations accountable. We are willing to join the international community in pressuring the Ethiopian government to advocate for full humanitarian access for the Amhara people. The International Alliance for the Defense of Rights and Freedoms wants the stationing of blue helmets in this conflict area, because this is not the only conflict in Ethiopia. And if not, is this a proposal that we can push for? How to convince the United Nations Security Council for these blue helmets? Are there efforts with the international forums to establish these blue helmets there? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. We have now a third question. Please come here. It is from Kagidan Abi, and then I will ask Monica to identify 3 questions from those who have been deposited at Zoom. Please, Kagidan Abi from Belgium.
This is directed at Willy, actually. In the past 3 years or so, more than 100 churches have been attacked, and at least half, including Bible schools, were burned down. Hundreds of Orthodox Christians have been viciously attacked. Thousands have been displaced because of their religious beliefs. After the attacks of 30 churches, actually, in October 2019, Pope Francis himself offered prayers for the killings of 45 Christians, including clergy. My question to you is, given your expertise in this area, how can the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and her followers attract meaningful attention for transparent investigation into their ongoing persecutions from international community and human rights organizations such as yours, the HRWF?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Aldikian. And now, thank you, Aldikian. And now I'm giving the floor to Monica for 3 questions, 2 or 3 questions from the Zoom.
Yeah, Frank, I would propose to do it differently, because what I'm having here in the chat is rather remarks than questions directly addressing the panelists. But what I have here is I have 2 persons I had who were raising their hands. There was one Debesso, gmail.com, and someone calling him or herself Truth Never Dies. So if you still want to raise your questions, you raise your hands. Maybe you can just
yes,
write down your questions.
Very good idea.
Put on your camera, or put on your camera or your audio so that we can listen to your questions directly. Also,
Yes.
anyone else who wants to ask a short question so that we still have time for answers.
These 2 you have mentioned, please raise your hand and switch on your camera. 1.
That's what they raise their hands.
2.
So now if you want to
we
put
don't
on
see
your
them.
camera and your audio, and we can hear and see you. It would be your opportunity to
It's
raise
now or nowhere, now or never.
Exactly.
You don't see them?
I'm calling up Debesso. Debesso here, I don't know who or where you are, but if you want to raise your question now, you rather can either you type it into the chat, or please put on your camera and your microphone so that we can hear and see you, which would be even better. But you would have to do that now.
Okay, there seem to be technical problems.
And please write down your question in the chat, and I will make sure that
the other person you have identified, please, Monica.
There's someone, is an organization, I think it's called Truth Never Dies. So the same goes for you. If you want to say something, please do it now. Otherwise, please write it down. And in the meantime, here's someone coming up. Otherwise, maybe Frank, you can go on with answering the questions we have, and then we try to solve those things later.
Because we are now still on Zoom for 5 minutes. 300 seconds, please. The answers. Let's start with Lily. Yes.
I think if I correctly state, the first question was from Monica asking what solutions, right? Focusing on solutions and the Western media, and also the gentleman over there asked what the role of China could be, right? Since China has its feet on Africa. Well, Western media. I mean, in the world we have a lot of stuff going on. So where do you put your attention on? It depends on, the connections, networks you have. And I think this is a good start today, that we will have a mutual link and connection. So let's hope that we keep in touch and then highlight this situation from now on. It's a good start.
Thanks, Lily. The next answer will be from Mesfin Aman.
Yes, I got 3 or 4 questions. How do we move out of this ethnic federalism? I think this is a crucial question because we need to address this problem fundamentally. So as Dr. Sanait put it very clearly, the main reason, the main rationale behind all this ethnic conflict, violence, genocide is the ethnic-based federal arrangement. It was the 1991 ethnic-based federal arrangement designed by the TPLF and the Oromo Liberation Front just to stay in power and to marginalize the majority of the Ethiopian people. So we need to have a new political settlement in Ethiopia. We need to create a new political arrangement. I think that is the best solution. We need to start to negotiate on how to restructure the country, not based on ethnicity, but based on geography, based on other qualifications. Because I don't know, imagine in Africa, you are you're politicizing, or you are promoting ethnicity. You are using all your political activities based on ethnicity. It is just like an atom bomb for Africa. It happened. We have seen it in Rwanda. We have seen it in other countries. I don't know, because that is the problem for many Westerners, many external observers. They didn't understand it. They didn't catch up with it. The other is China's role. I don't think China has any interest on human rights or democratic issues. They are going to Africa to do business. They do investment. They don't care about everything. So that's why we like them and they like us.
That's fine, Ms. Fim, and now it's Willy.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question about the situation of the churches and also the mosques and the interreligious acts of violence between the two communities. In fact, I follow everything about religious freedom around the world, and I've never seen any information coming from Ethiopia. It is very occasionally that I got one or two news. So it means that you must organize yourself and to distribute news.
Thank you. The European Union has an external action service, and they have a department for conflict resolution. NGOs exist, Save a World, Search for Common Ground. They all, I think, would be prepared to intervene and to assist to overcome this ethnic-based federalism. And it is you, the Ethiopians and the Amhara, who have to influence the Western media. We are now coming to a total end. I think Zoom is going away now.
Frank.
Huh? Who? Okay, Monica. Oh, Monica. We are now.
I just have to. I know, but I wanted just to inform you that we do have two important questions here. One question is why we think, or you think, the EU is siding with TPLF. Something what someone is assuming here, and the other question is why? What are the next steps of the EU after this hearing? Maybe we just have to clarify that tonight this is not an official EU hearing. This is just an initiative of us in the press club. Just to clarify that. But
okay, I can give an answer to these two questions.
Okay, please.
It's an answer to this question. To this question, it's very simple. You have to put your acts together. You have to organize among yourselves. You have to plan events. You have to identify those media who are the most interested in your issue, potentially, to influence them, to install personal relations, to install credible transmission of the things which are happening, to link with the civil society. We have here one representative from the NGO community. And never forget, the Chinese proverb is to make a hole in stone, in granite. It's a permanent drop of water on the same place. And therefore, I think we are all happy that this was today, the first event of this sort. And there are other events, hopefully, in the pipe, either here with us or with others. But it depends on you, because never forget, it's my experience from being a politician. 39 years ago, I became for the first time member of parliament. There is no justice in the world. It depends on those people who are concerned that they formulate what they want, that they insist, and make pressure. No one is doing anything for you when you sit in your office, when you sit wherever and asking, those who are not helping us. No, you have to help yourself. You have to create an environment that people know, understand, and possibly join your fight. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. All of those who listen and those who have not listened. Hope to see you in another context. Greetings from Brussels to all of you. Greetings.
Ethiopia heads to the polls in the first parliamentary election since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power. A recent rise in ethnic tensions and clashes has become a major focus for the political parties and indeed the people. Well, the violence has claimed thousands of lives and forced millions from their homes. Questions have been raised about whether the country's federal structure, which is built around ethnicity, has actually contributed to growing divisions. Well, from Addis Ababa, here's Kalkidan Yibeltel.
Chagni was just another small town in Ethiopia's Amhara region. Now it's a major displacement center. This is one of the 6 camps in town. Thousands who were forced to run from violence in the neighboring Benishangul Gumuz region live here in dire situations. Yeshalem fled her village where she had lived since she was 5 after being attacked by armed men targeting ethnic Amharas and Agos. They killed dozens of people, including her younger sister.
I can't go back there. I can't see the place where she fell down. It still pains me, the way she fell down. It torments me. I can't see that place again.
Tragic stories like Yeshalem's have become increasingly common in the past 3 years. And Ethiopia has seen more and more camps like this, in which people have been displaced by violence. This element the problem is structural. Ethnic federalism was.
Ethnic conflict is not confined to this area. It's happening all over the country. Ethiopia is divided into 10 ethnically based regions, and in almost all of them, there is communal conflict. Thousands have been killed, millions displaced. People are fighting for political representation, competition over land and natural resources. And the national election is scheduled next month. Is fueling the violence. The local hospital, and behind it, there are more than 100 families living here. They are survivors of a recent massacre where more than 40 people were killed.
ወደ 11 ሰው ሬሳ ወድቋል። በመሰረተ ትምህርት በኋላ በገጀራ ቆጦ ተልተፈዋል። ዛው በግዳ አረገ ተምታቸው ይሄ ልጅ ነው ሚስት ልጅ ይሄ ህፃን ልጅ ይስተህላል ዋረዶ አማራ እየተባለ አማራ ይውጣ እያሉኛ ድሆቹን አጠቃ ድሆቹን ሞቱ አማራ ይውጣ አማራ ይልቀቅ ነው።
Since the current government led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018, all the ethnic grievances have turned violent.